What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Purposeful Marketing Podcast, marketing with a purpose for the everyday practitioner. I'm James. Mary's here. Weeks is gone still, but we do have a special guest, conversion writer, multi-instrumentalist person, Allen Fennewald. Allen, introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, people. I am Allen Fennewald. I am a recovering journalist who has been in the industrial marketing game for 3 years now, and it is a pleasure to be here discussing purposeful marketing with everyone.
Yeah, we've got, so Allen's been making LinkedIn and TikTok content about B2B ads for I'm not sure how long now. Allen, how long do you think you've been at that?
It's been, let's see, actually this one I have up now, it was one of my first ones I did a big ad breakdown on, and it was 2 months ago. So not really that long. I'm still kind of gaining my momentum on the platforms, but it's been fun so far.
Yeah, so I guess like just the kickoff softball question, like what is like the famous B2B ad that you feel like it's just like you're most interested in, or you're like, oh, this is why it's worth it to look at these things?
Okay, so I'm going to point to, I think this was the first ad I broke down on LinkedIn and TikTok, but it is a Caterpillar tractors ad, which most people don't think about tractors, Caterpillar anymore. But it was from 1926, and this was like typical farm tractors that they were selling. And they told you how much the tractor was worth and all that stuff that you'd expect. But they also told you all of the B2C products that were produced using these Caterpillar tractors. So I like how they took the B2B and brought it down to B2C for everyone to be able to relate to. I feel like a lot of times we kind of get stuck in our little B2B zone. And it's like, if you don't get what we're talking about, then this ad isn't for you. But there's a way to humanize all of this stuff and make it feel a lot more important. Some ads require that more than others, and some products require that more than others, but it always feels nice to see. So that's the one that jumped out to me at first, and especially because they didn't just pick B2C products, they picked kitchen table breakfast item products. So they had a nice encapsulated theme there that really drove home the emotional weight of something that you get from a B2B product, on down the product line.
Wasn't there a tagline like Caterpillar's part of a balanced breakfast or something like that? What was the tagline of the ad? Do you remember?
It's a Caterpillar for breakfast. So it's more of like a novelty line. So that's another thing too, is that it's like they did so many things with one ad, because they had this novelty, a Caterpillar for breakfast, like, oh crap, why are we eating bugs for breakfast? And then they get into like what they mean by that. And so, that's why I love it so much.
Do you think there, from your perspective, that there was probably more good B2B advertising in 1927 than there is now?
I think that a lot of the ads you see from back in the day tried to do a lot more than we do now as far as creativity and trying to hammer home a feeling with the ads, because like I look at a lot of print ads from trade journals and stuff like that, and the amount of weight they try to put on that page and like try to get every ounce of interest they can out of it is really nice to see, and something that I'm trying to bring into my social media ads, where we're a bit more churn them out. At least we have a tendency to be that way, I think, in B2B.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like in 1927, who could buy a magazine spot? Probably only a company like Caterpillar, it was probably a few $1,000s. No mom and pop shop is going to be able to afford that. But now any mom and pop shop can spend $500 and put out Facebook ads to varying degrees of quality. But I think that's so cool, Allen, that you recognize that there's so much more weight and quality in the ads of old, and that you're bringing it back, because now that everybody can advertise, and especially now on LinkedIn, since LinkedIn is almost like becoming the new big B2B social media platform, replacing Twitter, that the ads are getting so crappy. And now I'm starting to get B2B SaaS ads on Instagram. And I'm like, seriously, like my Instagram is like my zone. It's like my little personal zone. I like to hang out with like my friends and family there. I don't want to think about work. I only scroll it maybe like once a day and just like, like a couple photos. So to like see B2B SaaS ads on Instagram, I'm just like, like don't stop following me literally everywhere I go online.
Yeah, and that's something we got to be careful about, especially when we make Facebook ads, because we mostly are doing a lot of LinkedIn and Facebook ads right now. And you are getting into their private space then. If they are on the weekend scrolling through and they see an ad that doesn't speak to them on a human level and make them think, well, they have a point there, then they're not going to read it. They're going to, in fact, scroll by in anger, more likely. So you want to try to draw them in, not blow them back.
Okay, that's cool. Like, how are you thinking then as a conversion copywriter and like breaking down these B2B ads? If we're thinking more in the modern era, or maybe someone who is doing like more mass marketing, how do you see really good B2B ads shifting the message for the channel?
So the thing that I'm noticing across all of our A/B tests, when we look at what's being more successful, what's driving more conversions, more click-throughs, and all that, is being able to encapsulate the problem, agitate, solution, or pain, agitate, solution framework within your ad creative, like the text that's over the photo or whatever you're using to draw people's attention, and your hook, which like the very beginning part of your ad before they have to click see more. The most effective ads that I've made and that I'm seeing other people make are able to do all three of those things within that space, so that the person knows what the thing is that you are trying to solve, why it is that you're trying to solve it, and how you're solving it before they need to click anything else. And that is also the hardest thing to do, because it's a lot to fit into like 90 characters for your hook and however many you dare to squeeze onto an image, So that is the real trick.
Yeah, I have to do a lot of like what you used to do, Alan, at Gorilla for Map My Customers Now, which is like ad copy on the graphics and then for the actual ads. And you're totally right. Like that's an interesting one, is balancing the how you're going to speak to the person both in the ad and how that's different like in the copy. So like I would love to hear you like kind of how you think about that.
Well, you want to give people enough similarity that they know that they're still picking up the right information. You don't want to completely lose people, but you don't want to continually just hammer on the same keywords, which I feel like people have a tendency to do. People are smart enough to know synonyms most of the time. So I think that's one thing, is like, knowing when you have a keyword that needs to be hammered on, and like, okay, I got to repeat this thing 3 times because I need people to remember these words. And when you just need people to remember a message, and what you can do to make that message as digestible as possible and as unannoying as possible. Because if you just repeat yourself 3 different times, you might as well just say it once and save everyone time.
I'm curious, maybe just for your take on something based on some of the things that we've come to so quickly in the 8 minutes or whatever we've been talking. I guess if ads used to have so much, B2B ads used to have so much more weight. A Caterpillar ad was about the food supply and your ability to feed your family, versus being about like a small industrial problem and how Caterpillar solves it. Like, and now ads don't have that weight, maybe partly because we are advertising on social media, where maybe it just doesn't feel comfortable to be cramming all of that in, or even if you can talk about it in the characters, maybe it's just too much, like someone's not looking for it. I guess I'm thinking about like the ads that we make for clients for social media, and I'm wondering if like we need to be even lighter. Like what's your thoughts on like, yes, you get 600 characters in an ad to use. What are your thoughts on using 40 of them? Like, How do you feel about that?
We test that, like trying to decide, okay, let's use a really as short as it gets ad with one that does everything we want it to do. And I think we've kind of had mixed results. You have to promise people that you at least have something for the landing page to answer for them, right? So it's kind of a case by case basis. But if you can at least get the curiosity peaked with that short amount of ad copy, I mean, you could theoretically do it in one line as long as you have a line that promises what they're going to accomplish when they click on that landing page. So maybe it doesn't, if it also depends on what your level of awareness is, right? Like if you have a product that everybody knows about, then you can just say, here's this product, here's why everyone likes it, boom, you're done. But if it's a thought leadership ad, then it's a lot trickier. Then you might give a bit more cliffhangery where it's like, here's this big thought that we have, and you're gonna have to click more to see why it's important. But then you're playing a risky game because people have to really care about that thought to decide to click on more, especially if it's like on Facebook or something like that. So that's where you do need to really nail down on that specific problem that they are experiencing in the B2B world. And then most of the time I nail that down and then expand from there. Occasionally, maybe you point out like the bigger world problem and then point the very small problem that is at the root cause of that. But I feel like it's more effective in B2B to start with that little thing just because it catches people's attention. They don't rarely see stuff that is so targeted to their problems on social media. So that's where I tend to start. But, you can do things lots of ways.
Yeah, I love that because it's almost like, if you're starting campaigns for somebody or you are running campaigns for a long period of time for a client that trusts you, you kind of have your go-to ads or campaigns that you run. So like a problem, agitate, solution one. Where do you like to experiment? Like what's your favorite category or type of campaign where you're like, okay, yeah, the problem is probably going to be where 80% of my effort's going to go because it's going to give me some conversions. But with XYZ company, and you can fill in the blank for an example, here's where I want to put like 20% of like my experimentation time.
Yeah, I love narrative priming. So like if you're doing a social proof or something that you're able to tell a story, that's why I really like doing, like there's certain rhythms and ways that people begin to tell a long story that like gets the reader like, oh crap, like I'm about ready to hear my favorite thing in the world, a nice story. Hopefully you back that up with content that is good to read. But that's my favorite thing to play with. But there's, like you mentioned, problem, agitate, solution. But there's, depending on what you're going after, other things you can try to do. There's the AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, which is more of like good for thought leadership. There's the features, advantages, benefits, or FAB model, which is good for like a strict product ad. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, which model you tend to go to. Problem, agitate, solution works almost every time. So that's why it's always the first one I bring up. But then it also you can do different things depending on what cognitive biases or social behavioral actions you're kind of trying to go toward. Whether you have a product that saves people a lot of risk. So you want to go with like risk aversion and certainty bias. So you want to formulate your argument based on relieving those stresses or promising those things in their lives. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've lost track of the question now though.
No, that was perfect.
I wonder, like, I guess I'm curious, like, what are like the types of things that someone learns when they like what are the types of things like a contemporary marketer learns from old advertisements that might help them do their job? Like what are the types of things that you're learning?
Let's see. I've part of it is the history of it, but then there's also like as you learn about why certain ads became the way they were, you learn about the research and the science and all the things that went into making that ad that way. There's a lot of different researchers, a lot of them seem to be German for some reason, that have done a lot of psychological research that we get to take advantage of and implement in our job. So I really like learning about that. I wish I was better with names. I could list you a bunch of them right now. But like the guy who decided that sports cars needed to be marketed to young men or older men who were trying to have a midlife crisis, like that came from a psychologist. And so there's a lot of different rabbit holes you can fall into when you start looking into old advertising. So that's one of the things I like about it. And that's why it's really easy to make online, like social media content with it.
Right. Something heuristics, something behavioral framework. Yeah. I was going to say, like, what all of this to essentially like accomplish what? Like, this is like a lot of human understanding, right? That goes into advertising. And it's easy to think like, man, this might be a little bit more helpful in the hands of folks like just trying to have decent relationships with the people around them. There's so much investment by the commercial ecosystem at large into understanding all of this stuff so that we can accomplish what exactly? Like, what's I guess the question is, what's the point of all of this? What are we trying to actually get better at?
You want to get to the horse now?
Yeah.
I guess we want like conversions, right? That's the hot word. And I guess the next question is, what's a conversion?
Well, yeah, the next question from, me, who now has to run marketing for a SaaS company. And there's like a lot of debate. Like, Alan, I'm sure you've heard a lot of it. So like, what does a conversion mean to you?
A conversion to me means what the strat told me we were trying to accomplish when they gave me the brief mostly. But I mean, if it's a brand awareness campaign and all we need to do is get their name out there more, then, getting someone to click the website, boom, conversion. Yeah, it's just what you need to accomplish. If it's a product campaign that you need sales, then, it's not a conversion until there's money in the bank, really. But it's harder to track it that way. That's always a struggle, is being able to keep up with our clients to know when sales are finalized and stuff like that, and how we can track it back to our efforts. But that's kind of a different ballgame at that point.
Yeah, I've been taking the former one. So the one you said, the strategist, it's whatever the strategist tells me the conversion is. I like the getting your name out one, especially if you frame it in the problems framework. It's like, if you can put your name out there as like a person or company who solves XYZ problems, I think that's clutch. Especially, I think so many marketers want the clicks. They want to optimize for the conversions. They want to see somebody clicked my LinkedIn ad, they filled out the form, they booked a demo, it led to a sale, but it just doesn't work that way. And yeah, I think the way that Gorilla especially runs paid social campaigns, and the few people who, really commit to demand gen have it the right way. So then, of course, my next question is going to be, are you involved at all in the how do we explain the benefits then? Like, if I can't, you're me, the head of marketing, and you have to convince me that paid social is working. Like, how involved are you in those conversations?
I'm kind of removed from them. I just get to enjoy when the client is hopefully happy and we are told that we're doing a good job. But the strategist plays a big part in that over here at Gorilla76. I'm more involved in, once we get the results, tweaking them and thinking like, how can we make this better for the next time? So might not be the best to give you a great detailed explanation there, unfortunately.
No, that's okay. What do you think about what kind of questions do you ask, or how do you think about the feedback that you get if a strategist is like, this product campaign isn't working? Like, we think we're drawing it back to this for some reason. Like, how do you think about following up with that claim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we know what we need to accomplish, let's say in this case, we need conversions. We don't care about click-through rates per se. We need people to buy things. Then it's me following up with our conversion optimization person, Kevin, who is on this show all the time. Love Kevin. And me and the other people on the team will go through and say, like, okay, what worked on this campaign? What didn't? Where did people go missing? Or where did people get lost? And just for an example, sometimes we realize, okay, we needed conversions, we needed sales, we got click-through rate. What happened here? And we'll realize, in this instance, we had a product photo that just showed the product, but it didn't give you a good idea of what that product was. So we had a lot of click-through rates because people were just clicking out of curiosity, but it didn't have a good conversion rate because most of the people that clicked didn't really need that thing. They just wanted to know what it was. And you can use that to your advantage, though. If you're doing a brand awareness campaign, then you really just need people to read the copy, and then you hope that your copy is good enough to reel them in from there. So that's when you could really use a just straight up image that is going to get people to click, just going, what's that? So you can do two things there, just depending on what your goal is. But that's just one example.
James, you feel like you have a follow-up, but if you don't, I have one.
Go ahead. I don't have an actual follow-up to the train of thought that we're currently on.
Okay. Yeah, I just love that. And I want to emphasize for all the listeners just how important it is to have either a partner like Gorilla76 or have someone in the demand gen space who understands those different places where campaigns can live in the buyer's journey. Because what Allen said was so key. Like, I love how you explain that, how you can take your objective of the campaign. Do I need people to buy stuff? Do I need brand awareness? Do I want people to read a narrative story arc? And you can analyze the fall off points if you have the right person, if you have the right partner in your court. So yeah, that was awesome, Allen. That was a really good explanation.
I guess I'm curious, just like and this might not be a question you can answer, but like for any like students of the game, it's like for anyone who wants to, raise their level and has their interest piqued by the idea of talking about a Caterpillar ad from the 1920s, and anyone who might be, I don't know, like disenchanted by the current state of advertising in terms of what they see. Are there like companies to look at over history, or even companies right now? Or is there like, what is a resource that you would use to like find all of this stuff and kind of where do you find the top of the ground where the rabbit holes are, I guess?
I do it kind of the raw, dirty way and just Google search a lot. So I wish I had a better answer for you there. But like, the B2B companies that have been around forever and that have been successful. So I'll go back to like John Deere is one of the B2Bs that you can always say nobody would mind being John Deere in the future, and they have had that storied history where they have the same kind of ads like the Caterpillar one we talked about, where they're that down home, like, here's how this industrial product affects your real day-to-day life. And here's how the way that we make it easier to get from that A to that Z. So if there is a brand that you just really respect and you think like, man, my brand would love to be that brand, then see how they got there, go through their ad sets and see what along the way helped them achieve what the level is that they got to.
That makes a ton of sense. Now I'm trying to think like, I guess I don't have any clients with I think my clients are too niche down for me to be like, who's the historic competitor and what is that awesomely huge brand that was there before? Oh, well, now I'm just like thinking out loud. Mary, you're going to have to interrupt me.
Well, now you got to think about who has created a segment, or at least made a segment popular first. Someone's going to say Steve Jobs, I'm sure, for that one. But
well, my big one is because we're like competing in the CRM space is Salesforce. Like they basically created the CRM category. So they're kind of like the major category player.
Yeah, that's like the Hertz and Avis kind of thing.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like the danger in being like, oh, okay, Salesforce is like, let's take Salesforce as some amount of a model, is like, it's important to find the point at which they became the behemoth and be like, okay, all of the things that they did after they became the behemoth, like I need to understand that they're already the behemoth and I'm not. Like I want to know everything that they did to get here. But the things that they did to maintain this position might not really translate at all into things that are like tactics or messages that would be successful for me. Because it's like they've already got the position. Like they're just holding. And you don't even know if the things that you're saying are even working or if it's just like someone says, gosh, my work is trying to implement a CRM. And someone else is like, use Salesforce. And they're like, okay. Like that happens. Like you could get marketing sourced dollars like that aren't really marketing sourced at all. It's just someone's like, okay, a CRM. I guess I'll get Salesforce. Like
100%.
it becomes that simple. So that's like I probably kind of a struggle. But I feel like you know a good ad when you see it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't. Alan, do you think you know a good ad when you see it?
Yeah, I think so. I know I see it. I know a bad ad when I see it. I feel like that's easier. Like if it makes my skin crawl, I know that it probably isn't good.
I get just like random thought. I get a lot of ads from this like it's like a Zoom info, you know, they can buy you a bunch of leads, right? And I've been getting just hit with these ads like, hey, want a $50 Amazon gift card? If you sit in on this demo, we'll give you that and plus 500 leads for free. It's like, so to your point, Alan, like, it just makes my skin crawl. So you definitely know a bad ad when you see it.
Yeah, and what are those leads really worth if they have zero brand awareness?
Exactly.
I mean, you're just going to have to be like, hey, we're about to annoy you, but hopefully it's in a good way. Whereas
exactly.
If you can make it a little bit of a happy accident for them, like, oh, I just happened to be scrolling through Facebook and I found the perfect solution to my problem. The boss is going to think I'm awesome because I was working on the weekend. You know, like there's a lot more credit, I feel like, that you get from the reader when it's like that.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of these like new ones too, where it's just like somebody's like puts a whole webinar or like a 20-minute segment of a webinar. And I can see the little like promoted thing under their company name. And I'm like, who is going to sit through this? This is insane.
Well, yeah, at a certain point, you got to do some work to make it easier on your readers to digest, or your watchers in that case. You know, there's probably a greatest hits reel you could have made out of that.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point.
And it's like, I feel like at that point, you got to respect the consumer's time more than your own, because they're the ones that, you know, don't have any good reason to pay attention to you unless you give them one.
Exactly.
I mean, I definitely think there are folks that think that they're exploiting like the way that YouTube pays out like for a full ad like viewing by like say it's a 3-minute ad. They become totally freaking insufferable at 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Yes.
Like, I know that they do that on purpose. I know that they don't want to pay. And it's like, or it's like an 18-minute ad that I can skip after 5 seconds.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
an infomercial.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. It's more than that even, I feel like. Oh my gosh. It's just like, I feel like there are, I guess a question for another time, maybe if you broaden your study of past B2B ads, would be like, what are some of the, what was a really bad B2B ad in 1930? Like, are there ads from, you know, the heyday of advertising, maybe even, where you're like, okay, this can make us all feel a little bit better about some of the bad advertising we consume today.
I mean,
that might be a.
I don't have a particular one to like draw from right now, but I feel like we still have this problem today with the snake oil ads. You know, it just promises a lot of things and never brings it back down to earth to let you know how it's supposed to do any of that stuff. And you can see that even when companies have like really opaque bids. You know, it's like, oh, we'll do it for this amount of money and we'll let you know how we'll pull it off later. And hopefully by the time we disappoint you, you'll be too sunk into this to do anything else.
Yeah.
Or you see that with like energy saving technology where they'll say like, we're going to save you this amount of money on your energy. And then months and months go by and the customers says, hey, where are our energy savings? And then that company is just gone in the wind, you know? So that's not really specific to old advertising as much as just like things that are common sins throughout sales and advertising. But it was probably easier
lying
to get
is timeless.
Yeah. It was probably easier to get away with lying back in the day. Now, you know, with the internet and everything, at least you're able to find alternatives if you don't find someone that's willing to give you the info that you want.
Yeah. Don't lie to people feels like a good of a place to end as any.
Don't lie.
Mary, do you have any like final thoughts?
No, I think this was awesome. I hope people really listen to what Allen said about analyzing where people's thoughts are when they're reading the ad, how to analyze the success of an ad. Like, don't just throw an ad out there. Like, think about it. This is the one place where marketers get the bad rap that they do, and that's wasting money on not doing something the right way. So not lying is a good one, and putting out really crappy content is another good tip. Like, please don't do that. Please don't promote your very crappy content.
Yeah. You got to give people a reason to feel and to think. You need to try to accomplish both those things, and you'll probably have a decent ad.
Yeah, I like all of that. So, Allen, tell the people where they can find you, where they can consume directly your B2B ad breakdowns and whatnot.
Well, I am Allen Fennewald on LinkedIn. I'm the only one in existence, I think. If you spell it ALLENFENNEWALD, it's a rare name. So yeah, look for me on LinkedIn and on TikTok. I share videos on TikTok once a week, hopefully, and I'm trying to do like 2 or 3 LinkedIn posts a week. So hopefully you'll be seeing more from me on there. And I cannot remember what my TikTok handle is right now, but I'll let you know for the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have all this in the show notes also, and yeah, I highly recommend finding Allen, messaging any of us if you have any questions about any of this stuff, or you just want to tell us we're good or bad at hosting a podcast. And yeah, we hope to talk to you again or talk at you again soon. Peace, y'all.
Hugs and kisses.